Okay. One of the things that will make your family Bible study time better is having a space that works for your family. Our family is pretty big, and so it's hard to find a space that works for all of the ages. A table is hard to get the little ones to stay seated at the table. When it's just me and the older ones, we can sit at the table and it's not a big deal. So you kind of have to find a place and a space and a time that works for you. And again, we talked before about how some people don't even have like a formal study where they sit and read the Bible, but they talk about the scriptures throughout the day with their children. And I think I mentioned that one of the most spiritual men that I know, and one of the who had some of the most spiritual young men that I know, their family didn't really have a formal sit-down Bible study time. If I remember right, they did it every once in a while, but mostly he talked and worked with his sons throughout the day, which is kind of what you see in Deuteronomy chapter 6. So again, you got to find a space and a time that works for you and for your family. Tonight, guys, we're going to talk about Elijah and Elisha. So remember, there's one with a J and there's one with a sh. And so Elijah's name, how do you say it in Hebrew? Stevie? Elijah, yeah. That for me is easier, because then you have Elijah and Elisha, and I can hear those noises better. But most people in our country say Elijah and Elisha. So just make sure you're careful to pronounce the J. Zane?
Why is it spelled with a J if there's no J in Hebrew?
It's just how it gets transliterated into our language. Things get translated from Hebrew, like the language would go from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English, roughly. And so English isn't really the first language that it went to. Like, we go back and we see it in Hebrew, but we still have this tradition of translation through other languages. Like, Jesus' name is not Jesus. It says Jesus in our Bible, but his name would have been what?
Jesus.
Nope. Joshua. His name is Yeshua in Aramaic or Hebrew. Yeshua is Joshua. And when you go from Hebrew to Greek, it's Jesus. That's Joshua. And what happens is that when it went from Hebrew to Greek, it got changed from Yeshua to Jesus. And then Jesus, when it goes into Latin, gets translated or spelled I-E-S-U-S. And when an I starts a word in Latin and it goes into English, the I becomes a J. And so it went from Jesus to Jesus. And so that's how you wind up with Jesus. And so as names go through different languages, you wind up with all kinds of things that weren't in the original. And it's not necessarily important that we don't spell or say the names the same way. Okay? But it is important that we know the person that the name is used to describe. That's really what matters. Because in Spanish, your name would be different than it is in English. Well, does that make you a different person? No. You're the same person. So it doesn't matter if the names change a little bit. Okay, so let's read from Elijah Goes Away. This is in 2 Kings. And let's see if there's anything that you guys notice that is interesting about the story. Elijah was the leader of God's prophets. He did many miracles that showed the power of God. Oh, before I forget, I went back and read because I couldn't remember what it said about David. In the passage where Samuel anoints David, it said that he was handsome. It says he was young and ruddy, which means kind of red in appearance, and handsome. So he was handsome. I think Mommy said that she thought he was handsome. She was right. I couldn't remember. So I looked it up, and that's the answer.
She was probably picturing him like you.
I think she was. She was probably picturing...
With a long beard.
Maybe. Maybe not when he was a youth. But as he got older, he probably had a beard. Okay. So Elijah was old and tired. He had been a prophet for a long time. God sent Elijah a helper, a young man named Elisha. Now, it would be a lot easier for us if he had sent him a guy named Frank, right?
Yeah.
Because then there's a clear difference between Elijah and Elisha. But Elijah came first and then was followed by Elisha. Can you say that?
Elisha.
Elisha. Can you say Elijah?
Elijah.
Elijah. The way to remember who came first is that Elisha helped Elijah, and Gehazi helped Elisha? Can you guys say Gehazi?
Gehazi.
Gehazi helped Elisha. So Elisha helped Elijah, and Gehazi helped Elisha.
So Gehazi was actually a prophet?
I don't know if he was a prophet himself.
Prophet in training?
I'd have to look. He helped Elisha. When Naaman came, Gehazi was the guy who ran and told Naaman that, hey, my master really wants the stuff.
I thought he was a servant because of the way he talks.
Yeah, I don't think Gehazi was a prophet. But I will double check just to make sure. When God sent Elijah to the city of Bethel, Elisha went with him. When God told Elijah to go to Jericho, Elisha went there too. Can it wait till we're done?
I just wanted to. Didn't Elisha leave his oxen plowing the field when he went with Elijah?
Yeah, he ran off and left to follow Elijah. Yeah.
The oxen.
One day, Elijah told his helper, "The Lord wants me to go to the Jordan River. You must stay here." But Elisha went with him to the Jordan River.
He's not listening.
When they got there, Elijah took off his coat. He rolled it up, and he slapped it against the water. And then all the fish laughed at him. No, that's not what happened?
No, the river parted.
The river parted, split. Can you think of another time when somebody split water? Kaya? Moses? What split for Moses? Jaden? The Red Sea, right? Can you think of another time when water split? Ania?
When Joshua crossed the Jordan.
Woo, yeah, when they crossed the Jordan River, the water split, right? And so now here's the third time the water splits like this. Yes, Dee?
Is the water splitting a significant sign? Like, does it have meaning?
Yes, it does. We'll talk about that later. Okay.
And you.
When they got there, Elijah took off his coat, he rolled it up and slapped the water. At once, a path opened up so the two of them could walk across on dry land. Now, the picture shows that it's a little wet,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
If it-
maybe I don't see puddles.
Well, I don't know. It says dry land. Now, does that mean that the land is completely bone dry? Or does it just mean that it was dirt and not water?
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be either way. Right? But whatever happened, the water splits and they walk through it. I'm not going to get into a fight with somebody if they say, well, it was a little wet. They were walking across on the dirt. Right? I tend to think that it was dry because that's just cool. All of the water gets moved out of the way, even the water in the dirt. It just gets all scooted away. So that's pretty cool. Elijah turns to Elisha and said, "The Lord will soon take me away. If you are with me when this happens, you will be the one who takes my place as the leader of all God's prophets." So is it possible that Elisha would not succeed Elijah?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. It was.
If Elisha had not succeeded, who would have?
I don't know.
Or it doesn't say?
I don't know. It doesn't say. The two men kept on walking and talking. Suddenly, a flaming chariot pulled by fiery horses came down in between them. And a strong wind blew and took Elijah up into heaven. So this Bible gets it right. A lot of people think that what carried Elijah into heaven? Stevie?
The chariot.
The chariot. What carried Elijah into heaven? Jaden?
The wind.
The wind. The wind carried him up to heaven. But when we sing songs, we sing, "Swing low, sweet chariot, come and board to carry me home." But who did the chariot carry home?
Nobody.
Nobody. We don't sing, "Swing low, sweet whirlwind." It's just not the same, right? But we have to understand that the chariot didn't take anybody. The chariot came and divided the two.
Is that important too?
Yes. And then the whirlwind came and picked up Elijah and carried him to heaven. That's what happened. Okay, so now, who is going to follow in Elijah's footsteps? Jaden? Sit down. I'll hold it up. Elisha. Now, Elisha cried, "The Lord has taken my master away." He saw Elijah's coat on the ground. He picked it up and went back to the Jordan River. "Will the Lord do miracles for me as he did for Elijah?" Yes, he will. In fact, Elisha asked for a double portion of what Elijah had. So he asked God to be with him twice as powerfully. So Elisha slapped the coat against the water, and immediately a dry path opened up, just like it had for Elijah. The prophets of Jericho saw what happened, and they said, Elisha now has Elijah's powers. And he took over as the chief prophet of God. Now the next story is going to be about some of the things that Elisha did. And that's going to have a widow who got some oil. It's going to have the story of Naaman and how he dunked himself in the river 7 times. And so tomorrow night is going to have some really cool and really important stories. Think in your mind about what the oil could represent and about what being dunked in the river 7 times represents, what it could represent, and why it's important. Do you have a question about tonight?
I have something. I have an answer for.
No, think about that for tomorrow. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. Are there any questions about what we talked about tonight?
I'm gonna find it.
No questions about tonight? Oh, yeah, you got a question? Who came first? Who came first?
Elijah.
Elijah. Yeah, who came second?
Shut.
Elisha. Who was Elijah's helper?
Elisha.
Greg?
Elisha.
Elisha. Who was Elisha's helper?
Gehazi.
Greg?
Gehazi.
Gehazi.
Wow.
Yes, Steve?
Is now an appropriate time to ask about the rivers?
No, we'll talk about it at the bigger person study.
Yeah, bigger person.
Don't hit. Now you have to tell me sorry. And give me a hug. Oh, okay. All right, how are we going to pray tonight?
Circle.
Circle? All right, circle prayer.
No, holding.
No, circle.
Circle prayer.
Circle.
Oh.
We say yes, sir, and then obey.
Let's do circle prayer.
All right, let's pray.
Mom, you'll hold my hand.
No, Mommy's going to hold Daddy's hand.
No, yeah. But then I'll hold Daddy's hand.
All right, let's pray. Hold hands.
Huh?
Hold hands, Kaya. Come over. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Zane, would you like to pray?
Yes, sir.
Me.
Nice and loud so we can hear you.
Yes, sir. Dear Lord, thank you for everything you blessed us with. Thank you for the freedom of religion. And thank you for all my friends and family. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Squeeze me, it feels like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to squeeze you.